I'd like to welcome you all here tonight, the audience and the candidates. And this evening's event is sponsored by our Unifor Local 88 Union and Politics Committee. Just go over some housekeeping. Everybody should know where the exits are. They're marked by the exit signs. One here, over there on the far back to my right, and then over here to the left. Washrooms are straight out the main doors which you came in. Through the next door, the ladies and the men's washrooms are on the left as you go through. And we do have coffee and water at the back for your pleasure. It is free, so drink it up so you don't have to get rid of it. So once again, I'm glad to have this opportunity to provide the community of Ingersoll and Oxford with this opportunity to question the candidates around issues around the federal election. We ask that all the candidates and the citizens here today conduct themselves in a polite and respectful manner, and we'll have a very good evening. So, with that said, let the festivities begin. What I'm going to do is just go over an overview of what the evening's plan is, and then we turn it over to you to ask the questions, and then our candidates will respond. So this evening we have moderators Colleen Wake and Rachel Flagel. Myself, I'm the timer too. The format for this evening, all candidates will introduce themselves, so we each give them 4 minutes opportunity for introductions. Candidate names were randomly drawn to determine their order of seating. Introductions prior to the old candidates meeting, so this is what the names were drawn. Questions come from the floor. All questions will come from the floor. All questions will be pertaining this session to the economy, good jobs, manufacturing, and automotive. Questions will be directed to candidates in order of random seating. Candidate 1 will answer question 1, with all other candidates having the opportunity to respond to the following the candidate 1's answer. Candidate 2 will answer question 2, with all other candidates having the opportunity to respond. This process will continue until the initial questions are directed to them. Once the candidates have first responded and the process will start over, we'll do that twice. Once the first 2 rounds of questions have been completed, questions may come from the floor and be directed at any candidate. The candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to provide the initial response. All other candidates will have 1 minute to respond if they desire. And the questions will come from the floor again, and they will take questions up until 8:45, at which time the candidates will be given a 3-minute opportunity for closing remarks. So there will be, for anybody that's been here before, we do have a little bell that goes off routinely. Timelines will be strictly adhered to. 1 bell ring indicates 15 seconds remain. 2 bells rings indicate that's the end. Next speaker or next question, depending where we're in the cycle. At the conclusion of the all candidates meeting, the hall will remain open for an hour to provide opportunity for members of the public and the candidates to discuss and debate issues. Members of the public are asked to come up to the mic and please state their name and ask their questions. So first of all, I'll turn it over to Colleen to begin the process.
Thanks everybody for attending this evening. We're going to start off with our candidate introductions, and we'll start with Mike Farlow from the Green Party.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. Here's a question. Do you think things are going to be better for your children and your grandchildren? I've yet to hear anyone say yes. Why is that? We all know society functions better when citizens have jobs. And I think the major difference between now and when I was a teenager is the availability of jobs. Today, good-paying jobs with a pension are scarce, and those that are available are under duress. I think today we can do better. I think having a federal government that allows a federal corporation to lay off workers and decrease service is going in the wrong direction. Postal delivery meant that in every community, there were good jobs with a defined pension. Jobs that brought money into communities, not only in Oxford, but across the country. Jobs that couldn't be taken away by China. Jobs that our children, grandchildren had a chance to get without having to leave our communities. Jobs that they could have used to buy a house, pay off the car, pay for their education. And all through this, the corporation, Canada Post, is making a profit. And people still want the service. And now, like our hospitals and so many other services, it is being dismantled. We can do better. Those community boxes are a symbol of lost jobs and the things in our society that we value that are being dismantled. On an international scale, the economic reality we face is that so many of these free trade deals are just a race to the bottom. We do not allow production in this country using child labor, but we cannot prevent clothing being imported from countries that do. I'm not against corporations joining together to make money. That's how our economic system works. But I'm against an unfettered profit motive and greed determining how Canada operates. And it's the job of the government to buffer this profit motive and greed. And I believe our government, the Canadian government, can do better at this, specifically with regards to free trade deals and the impact on jobs and the environment. At a community level, the proposal to put a dump in our county's aquifer, a county that is totally dependent on groundwater for quality production and the safety of its citizens, is too great a risk. Accordingly, under CEAA 2012, the Federal Minister of the Environment has the authority to designate a physical activity for an environmental assessment. Given the risk and the fact that the Chippewa of the Thames First Nation is against this project, I think it's incumbent on all the candidates to commit to federal involvement in this issue. And I would like to hear the other candidates' stance on the protest in Toronto this Thursday being held against the mega dump. A dump that threatens our community, threatens our health, and ultimately threatens jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Before we go on, if we could kindly ask everyone who has a cell phone, if you could please put it on vibrate or turn it off. Nothing worse than having an awkward ringtone come out while we're in the middle of an important a discussion with our candidates. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to Zoe Kunstler from the NDP.
Thank you, and good evening. Very much appreciate the invitation to join you this evening, and I thank you for coming out and partaking in this debate. I have to say, although I'm not surprised that Dave MacKenzie is not here, I am incredibly disappointed. The fact that we have a person running for office that has decided that the discussions that we are having tonight do not warrant his time, like I say, it's quite unacceptable. And the irony going into this election is that Stephen Harper and Dave MacKenzie want us to believe that this election is about proven leadership. And if I may say, I think Dave has proved a lot this evening. So let's look at the leadership record of Stephen Harper and the automotive industry. With Cami and Toyota, people believe that the automotive sector in Oxford is strong and thriving. And I do need to take a moment to say thank you and to commend the determination in negotiation from Unifor Local 88 in securing 300 more permanent, full-time jobs right here in Oxford. So thank you for that. Yet while Cami and Toyota are success stories, the reality is Oxford has lost a lot of good-paying manufacturing jobs. The fact of the matter is Harper has the worst job creation record since World War II and the worst economic growth record since the Great Depression. And it's families in our communities that have borne the brunt of this bad economic plan. 200,000 more Canadians are out of work since before the last recession in 2008. We have lost 400,000 good-paying, family supporting jobs. And this is just under this lost decade with Harper. Capital spending by automotive companies has dropped by half. And in fact, Canada will see, if we're lucky, 3% of new capacity in North America. And ladies and gentlemen, let's not even touch what the PPP is going to do to our communities. And how has MacKenzie and Harper handled this? Their solution, let's give corporate loans to automakers and parts suppliers so that they can set up their factories in America and Mexico. With a record like this, Harper and MacKenzie do not deserve another 4 years. The NDP will kickstart the manufacturing sector with targeted incentives. We will improve the financial incentives for automakers and parts suppliers in exchange for firm commitment to jobs and investments. We will make it easier for automakers to set up operations in Canada with iCanada, one-stop shopping with the federal government. And most importantly, we will meet with the provincial, municipal, industry, and labor leaders to come up with a consensus for a national auto strategy. And we will support research and innovation into the auto sector, starting with renewed funding for the University of Windsor's Auto 21 program. We're going to do this, ladies and gentlemen, because Tom Mulcair has the experience and we have a plan. And voting for Tom and I are the only way that we are going to stop Harper and stop MacKenzie. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Just going to take a second to move the microphones forward so everybody can hear what everyone, each of our candidates are saying today. They're directional microphones, so bear with us for just a moment. They are directional microphones, so they got to make sure that you're nice and close. And with that, we'll move on to Melody Aldred with the Christian Heritage Party.
Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Rachel, for putting on this evening. It's a pleasure being here and having everyone out tonight. Really appreciate it. And I just want to express that appreciation for the opportunity given to represent the Christian Heritage Party here tonight. It is of great importance that you, the people of Oxford County, are given the opportunity and time to collect information about us candidates and the party standpoints we represent in order to come to a responsible vote on October the 19th. As you heard, you heard the introduction. My name is Melody Aldred. I've been married to my husband Bernie for 35 years, and we have 2 grown children, both living in Calgary, Alberta. As the protection of innocent life from conception until natural death is so very close to my heart, I am very proud to be a candidate for the Christian Heritage Party here in Oxford County. The Christian Heritage Party is built on biblical principles, and we try to express that in our position regarding sanctity of life, justice and freedom. Think, for instance, freedom of speech and freedom of religion, support the building of strong and stable families, and working on a strong economy beneficial to all Canadians. CHP wants to encourage good manufacturing jobs long-term. That's important. We encourage full income splitting, and we would cut government spending by lowering taxes, reviewing government waste, and we wish to be more transparent and accountability in governance. As I see it at this point in time, the Christian Heritage Party is the only party based on biblical principles in Canada, and because of that, the only direction I can follow based on my conscience. Dear people of Oxford County, thank you very much for your attentive ear. Since I only have a short moment of time to address you tonight, I do invite you to visit us online at www.chp.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. And now we'll move on to Don McKay with the Liberal Party.
Thank you. It is a delight to be here and to be able to interact and listen and hear your concerns for Oxford County and what you expect of your next MP. I kind of sense very clearly from hearing these opening remarks and judging by the crowd, we are open to change here in Oxford. And the Liberal Party is committed to that. Real change because, as has been so clearly stated, it's about the middle class and where is it headed. The analogy of how do you boil a frog. If you throw the frog in the boiling water, it clearly jumps out. A week ago, Stephen Harper tried to make great claims as to how well he has managed the country in asking the question in the leadership debate about where would you have rather been over these last 10 years. And I would clearly put up my hand and say, I am proud to be a Canadian, to have lived in Canada and to have the opportunities. But he stopped there instead of asking the question, as has already been raised, where are we headed? So if you're the frog in the water that's just body temperature and then slowly warm, I would suggest to you that that's what he has done in taking away a lot of the initiative, taking away a lot of the optimism for the middle class, especially as it relates to seniors and especially as it relates to youth. So rather than looking back over the last 10 years, I think we want to challenge ourselves to look ahead. Where are the opportunities for Oxford that will make an impact on the residents here, especially our youth, especially our seniors? Because without that, we're going to be in some significant challenges. The t-shirt here, Made in Canada Matters. Does anyone remember wearing a shirt like that? Hey, that was the big rally around the first North American free trade. And how did it go? It happened. And we've lived, and with the energy, certainly, of your local here, and business owners and multinationals, we've survived. And now we're headed for more free trade. The biggest challenge this time is how much discussion have you been allowed? Has anyone been allowed? No. It's all Mr. Harper, his team behind closed doors. And so what does that future hold for us? About the optimism for the future. So Mr. Harper is right. We have and we are in a great place, a great country. We have great stability in our economic policies and our banking institutions. We have great climate stability, not subject to some of the natural disasters around the world. So it should be a really attractive place for investment to happen. We've got a couple of challenges. The cost of labor in a world market and the cost of energy in a world market. And thus we need to, not that those are deal breakers, we just have to recognize that. So then we need to be much smarter, much sharper in attracting investment and rewarding those that take that risk and make that commitment. So where is our opportunity here in Oxford? I think the automotive is headed for transitional change. The move toward the electric vehicles is started and has a long range to go. It will probably end up close to where the research and development is happening, and right now there's not a lot of that happening here. We are committed.
Thank you, Mr. MacKenzie.
Thank
Thank you very much. So if we could have our first question, anyone who's interested, please come to the microphone at the center of the room and state your name and ask your question, please. You didn't all just come to sit and listen, I know that.
Ross Gary, Local 636. Manufacturing jobs. Will your party support a national auto strategy that puts Canadian content requirements on manufacturing? And what do you propose the minimum content be?
So we will start with Mike Barlow in the green.
I think the thing that makes that option difficult are the free trade agreements. That is, for Canada to have the freedom to be able to say that you have to have a certain content in a vehicle or any product, the World Trade Organization and some of these free trade agreements we made, they can sue us. So I agree, it's what should be done. I don't understand, especially with resource extraction, why we have to roll over and let foreign corporations dictate what happens. But I would say I'd like to see a car totally built in Canada. And I think when the automotive industry was there about, I think some of the requirements could have been put in with the funding that came from the federal government to say that, oh, right, you have to build a certain number of electric vehicles. And I think the fact that we could start production in this country and keep ahead of the curve with providing electric vehicles could have made us, when we had that lever, indicate that we wanted more of the product built in Canada. The trouble is that if a company can go to China or any place where they can pay, there's no environmental concerns, there's no labor unions, there's no, their wages are so much lower. Corporations have the freedom to do that. So the first step to achieve what we both want is to look at those free trade agreements and to at least stop making them. Thank you.
Thank you. As we go down the panel, Zoe Kunstler, did you want to respond?
Yes, thank you. The NDP has had a very firm auto strategy, and one of the things that separates the New Democrats from the other parties operating in this country is that we don't do things unilaterally. We need to bring our partners to the table, and as I mentioned in my opening, in order to have a successful auto strategy, everyone has to be there. Ontario is or was the heartland for manufacturing in this country, and because our governments under both Conservative and Liberal have not had the gumption, I suppose, to be polite, to stand up and protect the Canadian auto industry, to protect our components to the vehicles, we're in the situation that we are now. This is why it's imperative that we sit down and come up with a long-term sustainable strategy to protect Ontario and rebuild the middle class.
Thank you. And Melody Aldridge, did you wish to respond?
Yes, certainly this is very important. At CHP, we definitely don't support child labor, and we do want to keep jobs in Canada, Canadian-made. We have resources here. So through loans as well for the municipalities, for infrastructure, we need to bring a lot of issues to that table of discussion, because it is very serious to keep our manufacturing here with the cars, with vehicles, and not to be using especially child labor in other countries. Thank you.
Thank you. And Don McKay, did you choose to respond?
Certainly Justin Trudeau and the Liberal team is committed to a national auto strategy that looks beyond just the percent and looks at the actual what it means to our industry, both locally and nationally. To illustrate what is made in Canada, so if you take a bolt from China and you screw a nut on it that's made in Canada, now what is it? And so that's part of the detail. So we could settle on, say, 50%, that's it. But if we don't understand what qualifies in the 50%, we may be disadvantaged. So that's the imperative of working with the industry partners in developing that national auto strategy so that it works for our communities, works for our workers, and builds the middle class.
Thank you. The next question will be directed at Zoe Kunstler. Run.
My age.
So my name is Brian Smith, and I heard not too long ago Joe Oliver say that the middle class somebody earns $250,000 per annum. That's the finance minister. I guess maybe he does. So my question to Zoe and then to the other candidates is, what defines the middle class in terms of salary and other factors? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, to be honest, at the moment, I don't think we have much of a middle class left. The last 15, 20 years, we've seen a rapid decline from secure, stable, family-supporting jobs to basically what we have now, the working poor. The middle-class job is when you can afford to have a roof over your head and that you have a secure job with benefits that are actually there when you retire, an EI system that is available to the people that need it, so that the support mechanisms are in place to rebuild what we have lost over 20 years with really bad government and the mismanagement of our economic system.
Thank you. Melody, did you wish to respond?
Yes, I think as well for the middle class, the taxation is just so difficult for so many families. So at CHP, I'm sure the other parties would agree as well, that we would seek to reduce taxes. And there would also be, we were looking at the fair tax, hoping to find a system where it would be more the fair tax instead of the income tax coming off so heavily off people's incomes. We would also give $1,000 monthly to parents that are choosing to stay at home, one of the parents that wants to stay at home with a family, to help build a stronger family, and as well that would provide jobs too, would open up other jobs for other people. When one parent is out, or two parents, is that it?
15 seconds.
Are working, it's the second income earner, because of all the expenses, it's difficult to make much more than $1,000 a month.
Thank you. Don, did you wish to respond?
Thanks, Brian. The middle class, what is it? Well, if you look at the affordable housing, if average rent in Oxford County is $800 and 25% of your income is devoted to that, so multiply that by 4, you're at $3,200 times 12 months, you're getting close to the $40,000. And anything less than that puts you in the poor, in need of affordable housing. So we're well beyond that. So I could easily throw out and say we're into that $50,000 to $60,000 as the bottom threshold for that middle class, and that's the commitment. So if we're going to reach that, we can't build an economy on jobs in the service industry, and that's where most of our young people and seniors are stuck. So we've got to get the manufacturing jobs that create real wealth, real family income for people of Oxford.
Thank you. And sorry, Mike, did you wish to respond?
Thanks, Brian. I think Teddy Roosevelt said that it's important for a person to work enough hours to provide his basic needs, but then also have time to give back to the community. So it's not just about money. If you were to look for a range, I'd say $50,000 to $100,000, but that depends where you live. If you live in Toronto, you'd have to be at the upper end of that. But the point is, there's so many people that don't come close to that. And with two people working to try and reach that $50,000 income, it shows how far we're away from people having the time to give to their community. So I think the middle class, it's just not there. And society benefits tremendously, obviously, by having that.
Thank you very much. Next question will be initially directed at Melody Aldridge.
Good evening, Doug Steele, Unifor Local 636. Thanks to Local 88 for putting on the forum and the candidates for coming out. I understand why Dave MacKenzie's not here. There's not a chair available for him. Question on the economy. Current governments, under Stephen Harper, has set up our economy to be very dependent on pulling resources out of the ground and selling them cheaply, not for the benefit of Canadians. How will your party diversify Canada's economy and ensure its future stability, specifically around national resources?
Thank you. Yes, CHP is firmly for keeping our resources here in Canada. They would not be exported. They're to be here and manufactured from those resources. And then, of course, fair market values should they be traded out on the global market. So we firmly believe in Canadian-made and making use of our own natural resources for our benefit, and not having things cheaply made. So we would only export and have value-added products, not the raw resources. And we would encourage processing and manufacturing within Canada, as we do have these abundant resources. And that would, we're keeping in mind too for Canadians and for our future, for our children as well. We want to have good stewardship of those natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. McKay, did you choose to add?
Great question. Our national resources, our natural resources, has certainly been the history, and the wealth of our country has been built on that. And the first explorers, what did they come for? Not for the fresh air, but they wanted to exploit our resources here and to take them back. So it's not all bad. It's how do we incent the further use of those resources in the manufacturing and the processing sectors. So it takes some engaged work on that end to be able to capture that, and that's where the infrastructure comes in. Do we have the infrastructure here to take advantage of moving our natural resources to our own facilities and drawing foreign direct investment to build some plants that can manufacture here instead of just sending it to China or to the U.S.?
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Mr. Chuzat.
Obviously, we have to start having value added to our products rather than just being viewers of wood, water, and oil. If you go back to Peter Lougheed, when he was Premier of Alberta, the province was flush with capital. They had the Heritage Fund. Now, Alberta is selling like a monumental amounts of oil, and the province is broke. So what's going on with these deals that we're not only are we not doing any value added to the raw bitumen, but we're just selling it off at bottom prices. And that has to change. It's what's really causing a lot of hardships, not only in jobs, but especially in the economy, to be tied to that one tiny market.
You done?
Yes.
Okay. Just check, and there's no way to go all the time. Sorry, Mike.
I wanted to beat the bell so bad.
And Zoe.
Thank you. That is a very relevant question, and I think really what has set us up to being basically sending our resources out is that we have not had governments in quite a long time that actually seriously look at investing back in Canada. There is nothing wrong with taking our hard-earned tax dollars and putting it back into our manufacturing systems, into our natural resources sectors. And one of the reasons is because it's a lot easier for them to support outside influences. I believe firmly, as do the NDP, that the natural resources of this country belong to the people of this country, and we should, with targeted research, with financial incentives, be able to encourage Canadian companies to start developing and manufacturing at home. And yes, the value-added process from start to finish is a huge component to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next question will be initially directed at Don McKay.
Hello, Brian Petrie. Don, you did touch on this in your last statement, but I swear I had the question right before. Infrastructure, both physical and digital, ensures that both people can travel to work and allows the products and resources that they make and produce to reach their destination. What are your party's plans to invest in the infrastructure at the national and local level?
Excellent question. So Justin Trudeau and the Liberal team has committed to $60 billion, recognizing that in the first years that's going to cause a deficit. But that's an honest answer to an approach that I can fully support as a, being from the farm sector, we know what investment is in the manufacturing sector as well. It's not a negative to, in the front end of growth, to be able to invest. So that's the reason why. And now what we need is the consultation to get that infrastructure in the right places. It can be a great job creation in itself, the building, the using of those natural resources to build that infrastructure. One of my dreams as being mayor of Ingersoll, Tavistock, and Borden, and you look at the map and you travel Ontario and say, why don't we have an intermodal system here in Oxford County? We've got the rail, we've got the highway, we've got the access within a day to Chicago to New York. Why can't this trade that's happening and all the sea cans come and be unloaded here and loaded here for the import, the export, and the distribution? Those could be great jobs, and that's an opportunity for the Liberal government and with local involvement to say, this is a good place, we have a plan, and we're ready to go.
And Mr. Farlow, would you like to add?
Yes, thanks. The Green Party has about 7 to 10 policies regarding infrastructure. One is to increase the gas tax transfer to municipalities to 5 cents a liter, and to be used in funding sustainable transportation initiatives. Also to change tax policy to create a pool of long-term municipal infrastructure funding by allowing municipalities to use municipal registered saving plans bonds. And in addition, fund green city initiatives, so ensuring through contractual agreements that the funding is not used in ways that encourage urban sprawl, but instead to reduce sprawl and greenhouse emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Commissioner, did you want to add?
Thank you very much. Our infrastructure project is a key component to our overall economic plan, and one of the issues that is severely hampering our municipalities from one end of the country to the other is the lack of long-term, stable, predictable funding. And in order to jumpstart our economy, community by community, this is what we need, and it is exactly what the NDP is committed to. Long-term, stable, predictable funding that municipalities do not have to spend hours and countless dollars trying to come through funding processes. It needs to be based on needs and not being targeted to the biggest communities in our country. A key component that we need to take into consideration, especially with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is that the tendering process for local infrastructure jobs is going to be open to international competition. So companies within our communities are going to be out.
Thank you. Sorry, Ms. Aldred, care to add?
Yes, borrowing money from charter banks rather than the Bank of Canada at zero to minimal interest rates consumes a huge portion of our tax dollars. The Bank of Canada must be returned to its function of funding infrastructure projects for the benefit of our nation. CHP strategy of funding through the Bank of Canada would avoid inflation by implementing it in improvements through the Bank of Canada. We would gradually expand the range of the program to displace bank-created money. We had more on the infrastructure here. Yes, inflation will be controlled by withdrawing the stimulus money created for infrastructure improvements as it is repaid. Canadians will be left with new bridges, highways, roads, port facilities, light, rapid rail transit, green power generation, water and sewer, and other infrastructure will remain for future generations. Thank you.
And Mr. McKay, would you like to add?
Can I answer again?
No, that's all right.
I'm willing.
You know what, I think I need one of those coffee sheets back. My apologies. If we could have the next question directed first to Mike Farlow.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for being here this evening. My question deals really with how Canadians are kept informed on the state of our economy. Investigative journalism in Canada keeps an objective eye on the activities of our federal government. Canadians are informed on the state of our economy and social issues through the media principally. In particular, the CBC, our national broadcaster, is a world leader in investigative journalism. The Conservatives have badly damaged the CBC largely because it holds the Conservatives to account. Can you speak about your party's plans for the CBC?
I don't have the party plan right in front of me, but I know they're supportive of the CBC, and I definitely am too. And I will see that the actual answer from the party platform will be up on the website to this question. And I think journalism has really lost its ability to do the job that you implied. And I think to the point that when someone comes from a conference or even a leadership debate and they don't go and talk to the media, I find that offensive. And I think there should be a more open policy from the government towards the media, and definitely to fund the CBC. I'm a big Vinyl Cafe fan, and I know what the CBC does in terms of promoting Canadian values and making us aware and proud of the country we have.
Thank you. I and the NDP are committed to fully funding the CBC and letting it do its job as a completely independent body with open journalism. But the fact of the matter is that it's clear over the last 10 years, anybody who speaks out against the Harper government has some serious cutbacks, whether you're scientists, whether you're researchers, whether you're journalists, or whether it's simply gathering information with our long-form senses. This is imperative. Canadians cannot make informed decisions about their future, about their now, without free access to information. So it is something we are strongly and personally committed to.
Thank you. At CHP, these are our policies. Publicly owned broadcasters must set the highest possible standard in upholding Canada's rich heritage of patriotism, freedom, prosperity, moral uprightness, and courage. Publicly owned broadcasting must provide to rural areas of Canada and international audiences access to Canada's current affairs and culture. Tax dollars must not be used to subsidize the CBC in outbidding private broadcasters for broadcast rights to popular programs.
Thank you. And Don, did you wish to?
Thank you. The CBC under Justin Trudeau would continue and certainly be encouraged to play its historic role in doing that. But the first part of your question was really, how do we get open, transparent government? And again, my experience at the local level and the township and the county is you publish it and let people see what it is, so that you have your open budget that can be seen, you have your quarterly statements that can be seen, and then you engage. But you have to understand it yourself as well, and that's probably lacking in our current MP and a lot of the team surrounding him, is the inability to carry on the conversation about the dollars, where they're going and how they're going to. And that would include the open transparency with the CBC, the Senate, even the MP's salary, remuneration, and staff.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question. The next question will be directed firstly at Zoe Kushner.
Mine's a little bit off base here. You're looking at a dinosaur. I'm one of the auto workers who have a decent pension. I live in dignity. But I'm saddened to say, when I look at my sons and my grandchildren, what would you do as a party towards our pension, or something that would enhance those who don't have a collective bargain, but work for, like Canadian Tire, or Walmart, or a turkey plucker, or whatever it may be? These people, it's either a better pension or welfare for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zoe, go ahead.
Thank you. The reality of living in Canada today is that 7 out of 10 workers do not have, nor will they have, access to a pension through their employment. The NDP is committed to raising out of poverty the 200,000 senior citizens that today live in abject poverty. We are committed to increasing the benefits to the CPP and making the guaranteed income supplement more to a livable wage. And this starts not by promoting the quick service industry jobs that we've seen under the Harper government. This comes by ensuring that our job creators, the small and medium-sized businesses that produce 80% of the jobs in this country, are encouraged with targeted incentives so that they can hire and offer benefit programs that otherwise Canadians wouldn't have. So for us, having our seniors retire in dignity is paramount. And for me personally, you have spent your entire lives paying into the system, raising the next generation of Canadians, and you deserve every penny that you have to live not only comfortably, but with decency in your final years. Thank you.
Melanie, would you like to add?
Yes, thank you. Yes, the CHP is committed to overhaul the broken Canada pension plan with a new personal income security account. We have quite a few points here, so I'll see how many I can get through. A personal income security account would provide a portable investment portfolio vested in the name of each worker for health, employment, and retirement income. Beginning with an individual's first job, they and their employer would contribute to the plan as a source deduction, just as we do now with CPP and EI, and in Ontario, the Health Fund. Beginning with one's first job, 10% of an individual's income would begin to accumulate in his or her account. 5% contributed by the employee and 5% by the employer. In the event of some unforeseen circumstance, like unemployment or illness, the individual will be allowed to withdraw up to 15% per year of what had occurred in the account. After that, government assistance would meet the needs of any individual or family.
Thank you very much. Don, did you wish to add?
Good question, and I really like the fact that you start with appreciation, that what you have is a great benefit, and for all those that are living, enjoying in good health, with good family and friends around them, it is a wonderful thing. But as you look around, it's many of these other people in the room that are still contributing today that are helping to fund. So, thus the critical imperative that made in Canada manufacturing matters for us, so that we can not just build for the future, but make sure that we take care of the pensions that we're committed to. I grew up on the farm where we learned very early the value of money, and it was your money, and so you learned to save. So thus, again, under Trudeau's leadership, the importance of youth employment so that they learn to manage money well, originally, and if any of you have an idea to bring back a paperboy type business that many of us started with, that taught us the reality of business.
And
I think one of the first things is to strongly oppose this Trans-Pacific Partnership and any of these further deals that are costing us jobs and that allow us that we cannot offer jobs that offer a pension because in other countries those don't exist. So a corporation can just pull up like Caterpillar did and leave. And I think the Canada Pension Plan, the Green Party wants to stabilize it and increase it so it's there for our youth. And then also another approach is to start to provide how can we survive with less. And if we can develop housing that young people can afford and live in and have it done with renewable energy so they don't have a hydro bill, they don't have a water bill, then that's a two-fisted approach to try and attack this problem.
thank you very much.
Just like to remind everyone, if you do have a question, we ask that you take your place in line. We do have a number of folks that are waiting to ask their questions, so we can make sure that's respectful. And this question will be directed initially at Melody Aldred.
Jeffrey Emmekers, and I just wanted to say that I'm glad to give up my position in line for a retiree any day. What is your and your party's opinion around free trade agreements, and more specifically the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement that our current government is trying to rush through before the election?
I'll see if I can answer that. Personally, I'm not as familiar with that area, so if you don't mind, I'll just take a look here. Maybe there's something in our policy booklet. Thank you.
Good time.
I think we already spoke about that. We were mostly about not having the slavery in China. I don't see anything else here that I could contribute to that story and answer that question. Thank you.